Hello and welcome to Run It Back on the Raptors Republic Network. I'm Zulfi Sheikh here, joined by Kyle Ramnarine and Cody Wiles. Yes, all three of us are back again, and it is perfect timing because we are about to recap the end of the Raptors season. That is correct. We have made it through all 82 games. But before we touch into it, let's speak to the boys. Kyle, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, man. It was an interesting season, but we're at the end here, approaching the draft lottery coming up soon. The playoffs are on the horizon. I'm just kind of excited, even for the playoffs. I think this has kind of been the most I've been excited for the playoffs in like the last few years. But overall, I've been doing good. Been doing good, man.
Nice. And like Kyle mentioned, we will be talking a bit of general NBA towards the end of this. Like you said, kind of looking at the play in and the playoffs. So that should be a lot of fun. But before we do that, Cody, how have you been, my friend?
I've been great. Not as sick as last week. I think I'm a lot
Good.
better, yeah, excited to recap the season here a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just taking a sip there. But yeah, look, we'll get right into it because this for the final time this season, we're going to be recapping the Raptors schedule and to go over the last 7 days of Raptors basketball. The Dinos went 1-2 over the week, starting with a win in their home finale by beating up on the Charlotte Hornets, and then they went to Texas for back-to-back L's to end the season against the Mavericks and the Spurs. All in all, the Raptors finished the year 30-52, the 11th in the Eastern Conference. And again, for all the lottery watchers, the Raptors are locked in to the seventh best lottery odds. That's about a 32% chance at a top four pick and about a 7.5% chance at getting a number one pick and presumably taking Cooper Flag. But before we get into anything else, we're going to go over our takeaways. We're going to talk about some end of season player availabilities that actually happened right before we were recording. So a couple players kind of spoke for the last time to media this season and go over some of our expectations and hopes for those guys and what we made of it. But before any of that, please be sure to subscribe to Raptors Republic, like this video, comment down below what you made of the Raptors season, just so you're always in the know with what's going on here. But boys, let's run it back and starting with the last of the Raptors basketball that we got to see for the season. We're not going to be able to see these guys play as a unit for a while now, unless you're counting summer league and that kind of stuff. But the Raptors finished the week 1-2. I guess kind of what stood out to you from the end of the season, the last week or so, or maybe even if you just talk about the last couple of months, because that was really the end here. Cody, I'll start with you.
I mean, overall, it's just the different players continue to pop off, like especially from 3-point shooting. I mean, Ochai Agbaji in the first quarter against Dallas, 5 for 5 from three. And then Jamison Battle, 6 for 7 in the first quarter against the San Antonio Spurs in the finale. He has set some crazy marks here for 3-point shooting. Fourth most. He had 100. I believe he finished with 105 3-pointers. That's the fourth most by an undrafted rookie in NBA history. Second most by a rookie in Raptors history. He was great in that last one. It's kind of scary how hot he got. Like it's almost scary how well the Raptors did in this draft. And Zulfi, me and you talked about it last episode at nauseum about all of them and how good they've been towards the end of the season here. But yeah, just more continually people showing things. And the Raptors made some like end of roster shenanigan moves here towards the end. So there's literally like 2 roster spots up for grabs next year. So it's everybody has been showing different things.
Yeah, we talked about it in the last pod too. You mentioned Cody, like how iron sharpens iron a little bit. So it'll be good to have these guys competing for some of these spots with not like next season. You assume when everyone's healthy, there may not be as much playing time available. But again, that means you have to kind of compete and earn those spots, which is going to be interesting. Ochai Agbaji again is a player that he's going to be nearing restricted free agency, I believe, after next season, and that's really interesting for him because like you mentioned, the turnaround is kind of astonishing. He was like when he joined the Raptors last season, what was he like sub 30% from 3-point range for that stretch when he was with Toronto, and he ended the year after that strong performance against Dallas, I believe, over 40% shooting from the 3-point line on the season. So just quite the turnaround from him, super dramatic, and he's a guy who's really just kind of found his role with this team. So it'll be interesting to see where he fits in long term beyond that.
Only under 22% with Toronto last year,
That's
and
crazy.
yeah, he actually finished at 39.9% this season. So I think we can round up and call it 40,
40.
Yeah,
but
we'll give it to him.
an almost 20% jump is, I don't know. I don't know if that's like unheard of, but it's sounds pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, and it was again for the entirety of the season. Like he kept it up. He had decent volume. Like again, it was like he was comfortable in his exact spots. He wasn't kind of doing more than he needed to, and that was opposite. And Kyle, like kind of on that vein of like the young guys and kind of just seeing where they go from here. Who out of that group over the last 2 months really impressed you the most?
I was going to talk about it. This last few games. Jonathan Mobo has been popping off, man. Like against Charlotte, triple double, and then the next two games he was on triple double watch. He almost had one against the Spurs, but he was 1 point off. But then even then, he still had 4 steals. He was playing great defense, and I feel like this, well, maybe not by the Raptors fans, but kind of got swept under the rug a little bit. Like triple double watch, just seeing his growth as a rookie, his defense as a rookie throughout this entire season. Like there weren't a lot of expectations for him, but to see how he's kind of developed over these last few months to even be putting up these numbers is kind of incredible. Like overall, I've just been really impressed with Mobo. Like especially just seeing, putting up triple doubles isn't something light in the NBA, and he almost put up 3 back to back to back. So it's been incredible.
Yeah, he probably had the slowest start out of all of them, right? And I mean, he's had the ball in his hands more. And Zolfi and I talked about it last episode. He's just way more comfortable offensively now, and he's way more aggressive offensively. The passing has been with the ball in his hands has been popping off. He became the third non-guard rookie to post 4 straight games of 7 or more assists in the last 4 decades. There's some playmaking chops there, as well as just the athleticism. He's an insane athlete. He threw down a big dunk in San Antonio as well. So he's been just an impressive, like they all have been. That's the crazy thing. They're all doing their thing, and they're all were late first round, undrafted, second round picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Cody. Like the fact that the entirety of the group of youngsters is kind of gelling together and doing this. We talked about it last time, kind of what that means for the unit as a whole. And like I think it's kind of like to that point of people being like, well, look at who the Raptors are playing, or like, well, look at like the schedule and what's in front of them. I understand that, but in the same breath, there's a lot of tanking teams in the NBA. Not all of them have a rookie posting a triple double. In fact, Jonathan Mobile was the only rookie to post a triple double. Not all of them have guys like Jamal Shed or Jameson Bow towards the top of leaderboards when it comes to rookie ranking. So like clearly this unit, yes, they are playing kind of like not the best competition, but they are outshining those guys. They are beating them. This Raptors youngster-led core for like the last 2 months has been the best defense in the NBA. Like that is not a common thing you see, even if you are playing other tanking teams. So I think it's just as a whole, it's been pretty impressive, and it's going to be exciting to see how they continue to grow together. But I guess like what's been on the back end of the conversation, because the young guys have been given so much opportunity, is the Raptors were very, I guess, not so subtle about their approach of development over wins, to the point where a lot of like important core players were being rested pretty routinely. So whether that was, I think aside from Scotty Barnes, Jakob, IQ, RJ, even like Ochai at times, hell, even Jamal Shed at one point was being sat down for rest. So like I guess I want to touch base with you guys about like what you took from the approach or strategy of resting players, because like at the end of the day, we have not seen a ton of these guys truly play together, especially if they're looking to turn the corner next season. And while adding another piece in Brandon Ingram, like reps are going to matter. Reps are important. And then if you talk about like Yak and RJ specifically, guys who are extension eligible, like you want to know what you're investing in. Yes, you have an idea, but obviously it's going to fit differently in the future. So I'm kind of curious what you guys think in terms of like the Raptors approach and if it's going to bite them in the butt. I guess, Cody, I'll start with you.
9 games, 140 minutes total with Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and Jakob Poeltl all on the floor. Not a big enough sample size. Once again, they didn't have a very good sample size coming into the year, barbecue specifically, and then barbecue's numbers this year were also really bad in the unlimited amount of time they played. So that's the biggest downside, I think, is your quote unquote core guys haven't played much together. And when they have played together, they haven't been particularly good. Now, I think another potential downside of resting dudes like that is like the chemistry and like the culture and that sort of side of things. But Emmanuel quickly said it today. The chemistry and camaraderie of this team is different than any team I've ever been on, especially the young guys bringing the energy. I think you can watch in the way they play, the way they compete on defense. They're together. And that sometimes can wane when you rest guys, like you see other teams like that. But it hasn't with Toronto. So I think they dodged the bullet there. But downside is, like I said, barbecue plus Poeltl, the whole starting 5 in general. Ingram hasn't even ever played, and they gave him how many millions. So that's the one thing, is the actual on-court basketball hasn't been good.
Yeah, I guess Kyle, then to that point, like, is there any part of you that, I guess, for lack of a better term, is critical of that approach? Because, like Cody laid it out there, the not many games together, less than 10 as a unit. And then when you have guys, again, intentionally being sat, mind you, none of these guys are all that old. Jakob Poeltl is probably the oldest actual guy playing, because Chris Boucher has been kind of taken out of the lineup entirely. And I'm sure we'll touch on that later. But like, these guys aren't that old. Like, I understand rest. I understand this idea of not wanting to injure dudes. Hell, a guy like Scotty played through injuries, but again, that kind of goes to the point then, like, why Scotty's playing through these games because he wants reps so bad, but then the players who are supposed to be centered around him aren't then playing as well. Like, that kind of raises a bit of an eyebrow. So is there any part of you that's critical of that approach?
Honestly, not really. Like, I know we need that main core to get the reps, but I feel like towards these final few games, I'm not gonna hinder them too much for resting the core because again, it could come up to why risk a potential injury for games that are already kind of meaningless in a way because they're not gonna go towards anything. We're just really playing for development at this point. Let the young guys get in there, let them play. And I know we do want to see this core five play together, but I feel like this late in the season, like we'll get it next season. We'll get it early next season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, no one gets injured, and we see that we get a bigger sample size. We see how these guys gel. But again, like the next 2 years are going to be for the same reason. They're going to be developing together, going to be trying to hit the playoffs, try to get into the playoffs. So we'll get to see what we want to see. But I feel like, again, I'm not going to be too mad for them resting our starters at this close to the end of the season, near the end of the season, because for me, it just doesn't make too much sense, risking injuries, just to see how we play together for the last couple games, especially when other teams too as well, they're not playing their full lineups as well.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like we'll get a good enough sample size. But I can see the argument for both sides. But for me, I'm not going to hinder them too much. We just let the young guys get out there, let them play a little bit, and just go from there.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to put it. What I will say, like, just to, I guess, play devil's advocate a little bit. Hindsight is 2020 on this. Like, next season, if the Raptors go through a bunch more injuries, it's going to be like, well, you maybe should have played these guys together when you had the chance, or if they do really well and come out the gates hot, it's going to be like none of this mattered anyways. It's kind of the same thing when you talk about the Raptors trading for Jakob Poeltl and a couple of years ago and pushing for the play-in. If they actually made a run into the playoffs, it would have looked like a genius move. But then they didn't, and the organization had egg on their faces.
Yeah.
Again, hindsight is 2020, and you kind of have to be accountable for those things. So I think when you say like, oh, when they're healthy and they're putting together next year, truthfully, that at this point of the organization, that is a big if. Because the last 2 years we've talked about this, and they haven't been healthy. Injuries have kind of been all over this team for whatever reason. So hopefully that goes away next season. But I think there is a lot of kind of like ifs, buts, and whatever that we have to hope go the right way for us to look back on this thing properly. But I think the last thing I want to touch on with you guys in terms of just the actual Raptors basketball towards the end of the season here is the very confusing situation in my mind surrounding Chris Boucher. So he is the oldest player in your team, the last remaining piece from your championship roster. And he had not played since February 26th. That is 23 straight games. The Raptors kept him out of the lineup. And when Darko was asked about it, I believe before their home finale, he basically said it would not be fair for Chris Boucher to play in that game, even though Garrett Temple was kind of getting thrown out there from time to time, even as a not regular kind of player. So I'm confused by this. I don't really understand the rationale, and I don't know how much I love it for Chris Boucher going into a contract, into free agency. So, Cody, like, what are your thoughts surrounding this?
Yeah, I think it was. I think there was kind of two sides to this. One, he was just like too good, and right before he got sat down, he was playing really well. Averaged the second most points he ever has. Shot it the best from three, the second best he ever has. He was playing some really good basketball this year, and they wouldn't have lost as many games if he was playing, simply put. So I think that was part of it. Part of me also feel like it was because he was going into a contract year, and I don't know if the Raptors were purposely trying to tank his value or
It
whatnot.
kind of feels like it, honestly. Like, I know no one's really said it, but truthfully, it does feel like it, does it not?
I mean, you see it happen across sports, unfortunately. It's just a part of the business, I feel. But yeah, there's rumors. Grange and others have reported that there's mutual interest in a potential comeback. So we'll see what happens. Well, like I mentioned, there's like two roster spots available, and is one of them really going to go to Chris Boucher? I think Darko's reasoning didn't make the most sense, I feel. Just because, like you mentioned, Garrett Temple was getting thrown in there, right? Even though Garrett Temple was playing more regularly than Boucher, when it came down to the last home game, but still would have liked to see him get out there one more time, at least at some point. It's like you don't know when you're in the good old days when you're actually in them. And it was like I didn't know I was going to be seeing Chris Boucher's last game potentially as a Raptor,
Mhm.
24 games ago or 23, whatever it is, Zulfi. So unfortunate. Have we seen the last of Boucher? My gut says yes, because I don't see how they bring him back, especially with, like I said, a little amount of roster spots he have. So I think his time might be done.
Yeah, look, for what it's worth, there has been reporting, I believe, by Grange that the two sides have mutual interest in kind of bringing Chris Boucher back. Obviously, again, the last mainstay from the championship roster. And like you said, Cody, he was really good this year. He averaged 10 points. That was his most since, I believe, 2021, where he was receiving 6 man of the year votes, 36% from three. Also really good. He led the Raptors in scoring off the bench this year. So again, a very kind of promising, bright season for him. And then you find out towards a trade deadline that teams are interested in him. Obviously, the Raptors basically said it takes two to tango, meaning they probably didn't get what they were looking for in a Chris Boucher trade. So, there's interest around the league. This is going to be a sought after player. So, kind of not keeping him out there for the end of the year when he's a fan favorite and could probably help these guys kind of show what it takes to play game in and game out, I think was an interesting choice, Kyle. I guess, do you think ultimately the Raptors were kind of just trying to, for lack of a better term, kind of finesse their way into trying to keep Chris Boucher around?
I think probably, yeah. Like I don't know if there was anything else behind the scenes that was going on for keeping him on the bench, but yeah, this would probably be the most logical answer because he was hooping, those last few games before they started playing. He was going crazy, hitting threes, and everyone was going nuts. But so that's why I was so surprised to hear like he hasn't played since February. But honestly, it's like you guys are saying. I think they are trying to tank his value a little bit. As weird as it may seem, they only have a limited amount of roster spots, so if they have been talking to him, maybe they've relayed this information over to him, or maybe they've told him. I don't know exactly what's going on, but yeah, it would make the most sense, especially with the amount of spots they have.
Yeah, look, I guess the last thing I'll say on this is and all of this is all speculation, by the way. Like, we obviously don't know any of this for sure. We're kind of just hypothesizing because at the end of the day, it is a strange situation. You don't commonly see something like this, especially to this degree. And then when a coach is asked about it, it'd be much more common for Darko to say, like, we want to give the young guys opportunities. We want to take a look at them, like say, hey, Jonathan Mobley's finally healthy and back with the team. We want to see him play. But instead, he opted to this idea that it wouldn't be fair to a player when that player could very much use the game tape and be kind of putting himself out there to be ready for free agency. So I think in that sense, like, it is very interesting and worth talking about. And again, in the I guess the breath of speculation, it feels a bit like the Raptors were kind of trying to take advantage of Chris Boucher's willingness to want to stick around because they know he wants to be here. They know he's from, like, it's his hometown team. And, like, not to say he's going to take a discount or anything, but the fact that they can probably have him cooperate because he wants to stay that bad and then hopefully tank his value enough to see if they can work something out. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that would be a savvy, quote unquote, business move if it was. So it'll be interesting, Cody. Like you said, we have no idea if the good days are gone now when it comes to Chris Boucher in Toronto. What we do know is if he is gone, when he does return, he will be celebrated by this team immensely and by the fan base. So I guess we'll find out in that regard. But Chris Boucher, we appreciate your services. If that was the last time we saw you play, you were awesome while you were here. With that being said, a lot of players talk today. We got end of season availabilities now that the Raptor season is over. I believe it was Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Pertl, RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, Emmanuel Quickly, Jacoby Walter, and Jamal Shed all spoke today. And just so I can get you guys to talk and I can finally shut up, Cody, what did you kind of like take from the player availabilities once the season's over?
Seemed positive, right? I think overall it was a positive vibe, and that just goes to what I was saying about the culture. I think it's the Raptors have done a good job of being able to lose games but not drop the continuity side of things. One quote that really stood out to me though was Brandon Ingram, and that I wanted to get into a little bit. And he sitting on the bench, he wanted to talk about seeing the personalities on and off the floor, what motivates his teammates. And he said it was good to see things from a bench view and how he wants to go into next year. I never thought about the positives that could come from Brandon Ingram being on the bench like that, being able to see how the team operates, being able to think to himself, hey, this is how I can fit in. this is how my teammates operate, all this and all that. I never really thought about it like that. So uh, he also talked about it being a first class organization. Uh, he didn't know how much grit they had on the defensive side of the basketball. So, and he said that every team that comes in here knows how the Toronto Raptors play defense. So, I think the Brandon Ingram stuff stood out to me personally. I'm not sure how you guys feel. Maybe you guys could bring up some other quotes that stood out to you, but that's the one I wanted to touch on because I had never thought about it like that.
Yeah, like overall, like my kind of impressions from the whole thing, the vibes are up. The vibes are up. Everyone seemed positive. Everyone seemed they truly believe in the system. Like, just for example, like Jacoby Walter, for example, he's like, he was talking about his own defense, his development, and how he kind of wants to emulate Kawhi Leonard. Just hearing that from the rookie was huge. It just shows how much he's aspiring for himself, how much he wants to be better. Or even like RJ Barrett, he said, in the offseason, I want to work on my 3-point shooting. I want to get better at free throws. So they're talking about everything. And something that really stood out to me was Jamal Shed. He said, I really like, I'm kind of like just like paraphrasing the quote, but he said how he really believes in the core of IQ, RJ, and Scotty. He truly believes that they can lead them somewhere. So just hearing the guys kind of talk about each other and talk about themselves in this way, overall, I was just it makes me happy for the future because it just seems like they really believe in each other. They really believe in the leaders of this team, in the core of barbecue. And it seems like no one's really having issues with each other. They were backing Darko a lot. And overall, it just showed me that, they're ready to buy in, or they already have bought in to the system. And going forward, we're going to see some definite improvements.
Yeah, I think it's worth like kind of re-emphasizing the fact that there's all this optimism and positivity and kind of like just readiness to continue growing from a team that won 30 games. Like you don't often see that, especially when that team that just won 30 games is filled with players. Like yes, they have a lot of rookies, but then you have a lot of like seasoned guys there too. Again, a guy like Jakob Pertl, multi years in the NBA, he's kind of been on a couple contracts. RJ Barrett's on a second contract. Scotty and IQ have gotten their second contracts. These are guys that have been in the league a couple years now who could very well be itching to kind of turn the corner and get ready to win, which it sounds like they are. But at the same time, they're very understanding of the moment. They're understanding what this team is trying to build in the vision. And to be so on board, I think is a testament to what this team has kind of crafted in terms of culture, like you guys both mentioned. So I think it's worth re-emphasizing. Again, this is all coming from a 30-win team, and that's impressive to say the least. And I guess from my perspective, what really stood out to me is I took a lot from RJ Barrett speaking. I really found him to be just like, again, when you talk about that passion and excitement, him just speaking about how much he's looking forward to continue to play for his hometown team. He kind of shared a story about a personal conversation he had with his best friend about like how excited they're going to be if hopefully next year the Raptors make the playoffs, to see Scotiabank Arena, RJ Barrett's name being called in his hometown, like just the passion he has for it, and for all the talk about like how is RJ going to fit in if the Raptors get the number 1 overall pick? Like he's extension eligible. Are you going to pay him? Blah, 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 this or that. RJ Barrett balled out this year. Like he was very good for the Raptors when he did play. He showed a lot of improvement, both as a playmaker. He took strides defensively, even though there is still room to work there. So the fact that he's still so excited and none of that noise that seems to be affecting him, at least outwardly, I think kind of just like I tip my cap to him. And the other thing for RJ Barrett that I think is going to be super awesome for him this offseason is he's going to get a break. And he mentioned that too because he was asked about it. Doug, I believe it was Doug Smith that asked him about it. The fact, like after last season, obviously being traded midway through the year, kind of completely turning his career trajectory upside down. Obviously, the very personal loss of his brother after that, and then from there, basically getting no time to kind of like settle down and process. He was thrown into the Olympics, and we know the Olympics were a very emotional time for the Team Canada, and a disappointing exit for them when they lost to France. And then from that, he just goes right back into the NBA picture. And not only was he playing for the Raptors, he had to carry the Raptors because Scotty was hurt. Emmanuel quickly got hurt. Again, like it was basically him and Grady for the start of the season carrying the load. RJ Barrett was being asked to do a ton. So the fact that he now can finally have a bit of a break to reset, he sounded very excited for it. And I'm glad he's going to get that so he can recharge and be ready for this next season without all those things kind of back to back to back.
Yeah, I will say for anybody who wants to go see more quotes, S on Twitter, Raptors Republic's own, as is, he does a lot, was really good at putting together a whole big old thread of all the quotes. So if you kind of want a summarized version, you don't want to watch the presser itself. Yeah, S did a great job on Twitter there. But yeah, it was overall a good vibe, positive vibe. Everybody seemed like they wanted to get ready for next year, which is good, which is great. We all are so excited for next season. And I mean, if we want to get into our own thoughts about our expectations for next year as well, I've been saying it. They can push top 6. Flame me, I don't care. I think they can push top 6. I mean, I just won because, man, 30 wins. Zolfi, you said it. This is coming from a 30-win team. This is a fake 30-win team.
Yeah,
If
100%.
if anything, they're probably closer to 500, which would put them, which I still even think is a little low. Like I think they're fully healthy and above 500 team. And if you're 500, that's the 7th seed. You're the Orlando Magic who finished 500. So they're only 10 games back of that. And I think if you're not sitting guys and everybody's healthy, which I guess being healthy is also a problem for the Toronto Raptors, I think they're easily there. And who knows, out of the top 6, maybe one of those teams fall. I don't know. Detroit, is that 30-game jump real? Do they regress a little bit when the East becomes a bit more competitive? Milwaukee, is Giannis. I mean, I'm sure Giannis will be a buck next season, but I don't know. Lots to happen. A first-round playoff exit, that could change things.
Things change fast in the NBA these days.
And then Indiana, had a strong second half of the season, but didn't necessarily start the best. So I don't know, man. I think the East is right there. I think there's a tier break after the top 3, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the Raptors can be a top 6 seed. They're not in the play-in next season. I don't know what went wrong. Probably just injuries. There's just too much talent. But for me, they should be a lock for the play-in tournament next year and potentially top 6.
Yeah, look, if you put it this way, the Raptors had an injury-riddled season, like you mentioned, Cody. Not even 10 games of their core really basically playing together. They spent at least 2 months, if not more, just not interested in winning basketball games. And with that, they still picked up 5 more wins than they did the year before.
They still hit their over.
They still hit their over. Like with all of that, like I'll use a reference if you're a hockey fan. Evander Kane, he's kind of working back to return to the Oilers, and basically they asked him like, "Oh, like, are you sure you're going to be ready to kind of make your return in the playoffs?" And he's like, "Look, I played last year in the playoffs when I couldn't even skate because I was that like injured, and so I'm going to be okay." I think that's basically what the Raptors are saying. Like, we were beat up, we weren't even trying, and we still improved. So next season we're going to be okay. That's basically what the Raptors seem to be kind of throwing out here. And to your point, Cody, I kind of believe them. Like if they can improve upon last season with all the things that were going on this year, I think it really does bode well for them. So Kyle, like, are you in that same boat, or like what to you is like your expectations for next season?
Honestly, like assuming they stay injury free, like, and none of that, easily 40 wins. This team easily hitting 40 wins. Like that might be crazy, but I mean, 10 more wins than this season if they're fully healthy, like actually buying into, we want to make the playoffs, easily 40 wins. And that would put them like right around 6-7 seed if this season. So I honestly think, they're buying in. They made the improvement of Brandon Ingram. If we get a top 5 pick, crossing the fingers, and our defense continues to improve, the rookies continue to improve, I don't see why we don't hit 40 wins, especially because this season, I'll pull the excuse, we weren't even trying. We didn't even care. We really weren't trying. So 40 wins, it shouldn't be crazy.
They played 500 basketball the second half of the season. The last 43 games, they were 22-21. They had the second best defensive rating in the NBA across that span. I know it was against some lesser competition and whatnot, and some shenanigans were going on there, but man, they're right there. I think if you balance out the injuries and the not playing plus like the weekend competition, I think it gets right close. And then you add in a Brandon Ingram, you add in a potential top 5 pick, at worst a top 10 pick. I mean, I don't know, the 7th seed, I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid, fellas. I think with the odds, it's just as likely they jump up to the top 4 as they do to drop down to 8. I could be wrong, but I think it's like they're both around like 30 or so percent, maybe close to 40 each. But anyways, like I don't how this team's easily going to be a 500 team next year when you add in, and then they got the 39th overall pick as well. And I mean, they just hit on 3 second rounders, because I'm counting Shamshi a hit. I don't care.
Hell yeah.
And and an undrafted guy. So, and maybe they pick up another undrafted guy. I don't know. Like this team is so deep.
Yeah.
I would say they might not have the crazy top end talent quite yet, unless they win the draft lottery. I don't know, but they have the depth, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I'm just manifesting it right now. We're gonna get a top pick. We're gonna be a good playoff team. I'm not afraid of no Knicks. I'm not afraid of no Pacers. I'm not afraid of the Pistons.
Don't start
Not
the
af-
next stuff again.
I'm not
No.
afraid. I'm not afraid of any of these teams. Okay, if the Raptors play like we know they can, and even when they went on that little winning streak throughout the season, they had the best defense in the NBA. And again, it was against lesser talent. But honestly, the only teams I'm really afraid of in the Eastern Conference, if we can play to our full potential, are the Cavs and the Celtics. I don't care about anybody else. Like, bring anybody else, bring all the smoke. We want it. I think this team can be tested without injuries.
Which is a problem in itself.
Yeah, like again, that is a point that needs to be kind of like taken in. But like to your guys' point about the whole schedule stuff, like the reality of the NBA is there is still going to be lesser teams next year.
Fair
Yes,
point.
it may not all happen in the same stretch, or it may not have like a month and a
Yeah.
half of the easiest schedule, but you're probably still gonna have to like play against quote unquote tanking teams. And if the Raptors can take advantage of that, like you said, Cody, like they were basically 500 at one point for the back half of the season. Like if you can kind of continue to take advantage of those lesser teams and kind of chip into beating some of these better teams with, again, like a Brandon Ingram, like a pick, like with your depth kind of gelling together, and you start winning some more of those games. You don't have to win all of them, obviously, but win a couple more, and all of a sudden this team is kind of hitting those 10 extra wins, 12 extra wins, whatever the case is. Like the path to it seems very realistic and reasonable. And to kind of get there, you alluded to a bit, Cody, talking about this team's defense. That kind of speaks to what my expectation is. You guys did a good job of kind of talking about like the tangible or like number things. I think for me is like I really want to see this team develop a consistent identity next season. I talked about it entering this year, like kind of a calling card or something to hang your hat on. Obviously, the best teams at the top of the league have a bit of everything. You look at OKC, they have good depth, they're amazing on defense, they're led by a superstar, so they have all those three things checked. The Raptors, by no one's admission, is going to be one of those top teams next year. They're ready to turn the corner, though. And when you do that, you have to have some kind of thing to hang your hat on, whether that's being able to get stops when your offense needs the extra boost to get turnovers and easy baskets, whether it's that your offense lifting you up when you can't get a stop. Like if you look at the Orlando Magic, they hang their hat on defense. When the Pacers were trying to get legit, it was all about their fast-paced offense, their working transition. You need something. And the Raptors, I guess not frustrating, but the interesting part is like they kind of had stretches of both this season. The first half of the season, when all the core guys like were playing more, obviously once health started coming around, they were like I think hovering around the top half of the league offense for a little bit. And then when they kind of shut things down, faced an easier schedule, put their rookies out there, the guys are going to try like 110% every time because they're trying to earn their minutes. Well, then this team had a really good defense. They were basically the best defense for the last 2 months in terms of defensive rating. So it's like, I don't really care which side of the ball it is, but you kind of need something to hang your hat on or to lean on when things are kind of happening to you in not the best ways. So I'm interested to see how that goes next season. We obviously know Darko was brought in for his dynamic offense. He's teased at times. We're like, oh, he's good on the defensive side too. We want to see that happen a little bit. So I don't really care which side of the ball it is, but I think the Raptors do need to create an identity next season.
Yeah, 100%. Just to kind of do some housekeeping here. There were a bunch of like injury updates as well from the media, so I have them all listed here. So I'm just going to rattle them off real quick. Scotty and Jakob's hand contusions won't impact their offseason at all. They'll be okay. Brandon Ingram had that PRP injection in his ankles, just needs some more recovery time. He'll be reassessed in May, as will Grady Dick. Just needs the time to heal with the bone bruise. He's expected to be back in May. Garrett Temple sustained an MCL sprain on that left knee in the final game. Just brutal for him, but he will be with the team this summer to help recover. Jacoby Walter and AJ Lawson with hip strains will be full participants this summer. And Ora Shamshe, he's ramping back up, and his expectation is to be a full participant in summer league. So just to kind of put a bow on all of that and all the injury updates, because there were a bunch of injuries like we were just talking about. So it's nice to kind of, know that nothing is, at least with the guys who got the injuries, it's no like Kyle, at least nobody tore their ACL. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's just a whole bunch of, bone bruises, and like I guess Ulrich Shamshe had the partially torn MCL, but that's at least it wasn't a full tear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Especially because we're dealing with all these different types of injuries as well. Like, I'm glad most of the guys are healthy, ready to go. Like it sucks to hear about Garrett Temple though, because of MCL. I didn't even know that happened. I didn't even know when that happened, or when he tore that MCL. Was it a sprain or was it?
Yeah, so he had I can't remember who fell in. Oh, Stephon Castle fell into his knee. He was just it was after a basket. he got pushed and fell, and it looked kind of bad. But yeah, the Raptors only had like 7 players available for the Spurs games after he went down. But yeah, just kind of put a bow on it because I feel like it was relevant and people, if they didn't get a chance to see it or whatnot, yeah, that's the injury update.
Well, I think I'm back. Hopefully, I'm back.
Yeah, you are.
You guys can hear me.
Just
Thank the
vanished.
Lord. I hate technology, or basically, I just didn't want to listen to Cody talk about more injuries because I'm sick of injuries. But well, Cody, thank you for giving us the injury update. I do appreciate it, and fingers crossed for Garrett Temple to come back. I don't know if you mentioned it, but he's basically already said he wants to return to this team. So, and I'm sure the Raptors would be willing to have him around. Well, another, like, aside from the praises for Darko, Garrett Temple was another person that pretty much everyone who spoke today spoke highly of, about his leadership and what he brings. And again, he's a very unique vet where he is very willing to go out there, even if it's in a random kind of like short stint, and he'll give 110%. So to have that guy sticking around, a unique vet like that, I think is something the team, in terms of the players, want. I think the fans would like it too. So hopefully Garrett Temple can recover and make a return to the Raptors. But I think that pretty much wraps it up for Raptors talk. And Kyle, I know you were itching to get into some general NBA chatter to speak about some postseason basketball, which we won't be able to do about the Raptors for sure. So I give you the floor.
Yeah, because I feel like, like we went the whole season, we haven't really talked about other teams, and it's our time now. It's our time to talk about the playoff stuff. I'm really excited for this playoffs, man. So I did
It's gonna be
was
fun.
I brought my bracket for y'all to cook me on, and it kind of gives us like an outline of what the playoffs look like as well. So I'm gonna put it up here. I need you guys to let me cook.
Yeah, I was
all right?
gonna say, show us how you think the Lakers are gonna win a title this year. Show me the path. Show me the path.
I need you guys. Okay, for some reason, I don't think the Celtics picture is loading, but I need you guys to let me cook. All right, all right.
You know, I'm okay with the Celtics picture not loading. I kind of enjoy it, to be honest.
I don't know why some of the logo. This is from the NBA website itself too. Okay, so like I don't know why these
Adam
pictures
Silver,
aren't
get it
loading.
together.
But okay, so like for the first round, we got the Thunder, and whoever wins that kind of the play-in, I got the Thunder in 4, no matter who they face off. Like I got Thunder 4 or 5, and
the reverse Shannon Sharp right here.
Bro, they got the best got the best defense in the NBA, right? And then you have the Denver Nuggets and then the Clippers. For this, I know this is a hot take.
I don't think it's that hot.
I feel like the Clippers have been playing pretty well, and with kind of Denver losing their coach Jamal Murray not really being there, I got the Clippers in like 6 or 7, man. Beating them in 6 or 7.
I don't think that's that hot of a take. Yeah.
I think that's probably the prime series to go 7 games. I think if I had to bet which series would go 7, it's probably that one. But yeah, I don't think it's hot either. The Clippers are balling. James Harden looks on top of his form. Kawhi Leonard's actually healthy.
Yeah.
Ivica Zubac is a fantastic center. He's going to be fun against Jokic.
Most improved player in my books.
He might get DPOY votes, to be honest.
Yeah, and then they got some interesting like wing defender, guard defender guys as well. So
big bodies on the wing for them.
Yeah, I like the Clippers. I don't know if they got a tough draw necessarily against the Nuggets, but I think nobody can really match up with Jokic, but Zubac can do about as good a job as probably any other big outside of like Wemby. You know what I mean? He's gonna do solid, and then. Can the Denver Nuggets play defense? Can they guard James Harden effectively? Can they guard Kawhi Leonard effectively? I don't know, but I think I'd have to tend to agree with you, Kyle. I don't know about Zilfi. With the Thunder Clippers, I could see a second round matchup like that.
Could be cooking, and then we move on, to my boys, the Lakers and the Wolves. You know what they say, bro? Zovi shake, bake a cake, pick up a rake. Lakers in 5, man.
How long were you practicing that? I gotta know, Kyle. How long did you have that in the chamber?
I just cooked that up.
I know you don't want to hear this, but
God,
I think Minnesota can maybe pull it out. I know you don't want to hear that, but I don't know. I'm gonna throw it out there. I don't know what I'll officially take. I'm not making any predictions right now, but I think it's not going to be a walk in the park.
Luka is going to see Randall drop 73.
Yeah, Gobert playing better. Obviously, like the Lakers are smaller. They're not small per se. They just don't have like a legitimate like center, unless you count Jackson Hayes kind of doing his thing.
Well, their best lineups are small ball, right?
Yeah, but it is. But like when you look at it in the sense of like at the center spot, yes, but like what is it? Austin Reeves is like 6'4", 6'5". Luka's obviously like 6'7". LeBron 6'8". Rui or Dorian, whoever you have, is like 6 whatever. Yeah, like they're kind of bigger as well. So like at the center spot, yes, and like but for when you look at the rest of the lineup, they kind of match up decently well. It's just like can they kind of contain whether it's Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert, even like Naz Reid doing their thing, and obviously containing Ant, but also like Luka Doncic. He likes playing these Timberwolves, if we remember from last
Yes.
playoffs, what he did
Yeah.
against them. So
Yeah, he
that'll
does.
be interesting. And obviously, how do the dynamics work in the postseason? LeBron is obviously older. This is Luka's team for basically now and the future. But when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to tight situations, Luka is that dude. But so is LeBron. Like, who's going to be kind of making things happen? Like, you could probably see both of them, but at a certain point, there's only one ball. So I'm curious to see when the stakes are the highest, how does it happen?
Yeah, I think they'll be able to figure it out. But Kyle, which one of these teams is upsetting Houston? I see here.
Yeah,
Which,
that was my next question. Kyle,
So-
please explain this.
So for me, this is a really hot take, but I honestly don't believe in the Houston Rockets, man. Like I'm a naysayer of the Houston Rockets. I know they got a good
Okay.
offense. I think where the Warriors are going to come. I mean, like the Warriors are 0-3 in the play-ins, but I think this year will be the year they actually finally make like beat the curse.
So you're
But I-
taking the Warriors to beat the
I-
Grizzlies and face
I-
the Rockets, right?
Yeah, I think the Warriors could end up beating, especially with the addition of Jimmy Butler now. I think they can end up beating the Rockets in like 6. But I honestly I can't tell you why I don't believe in the Houston Rockets. I just think like it's just a false calling, man. Them being the second seed, it's not real, bro. It's not real. I think the Warriors can pull it out in 6 or 7 around there.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
Sorry, go
I
ahead, Cody.
don't. Yeah, no, I don't hate the Rockets. Honestly, I think it'd be tough for me to see the Rockets getting to a Western Conference final at least this year. I think there's still a lot of inexperience on the team. It's we'll see which team they actually face in the first round. I actually don't hate it. To be fair, I think I would like Memphis a little bit better against them. I don't know. I'd have to, like I said, I haven't really thought about my predictions and whatnot, but yeah, Golden State, I don't know, they had a really strong second half once they acquired Jimmy Butler, but they rely so much on Steph. And we saw in that last regular season game against the Clippers, they were just blitzing him and doubling him and making other people beat, making someone else other than Steph Curry beat you. And I think if they were to match up the Rockets and the Warriors, I think Houston has the bodies to be able to do that. And throwing a Men Thompson on Steph would just in general would be, it'd be kind of scary. But I don't know. I can see it either way. I have to really sit down and hammer it out. I'll probably put something out on Twitter. But Z, what do you think?
Yeah, look, Kyle, to your credit, what I will say is that if there was a series or a team to pick to get upset, the Rockets make sense. Like you
Yeah.
said, Cody, they're super young. They do have some, obviously, they have some more experienced players leading them with Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, and some of the other guys. But like their offense is just, it has these droughts. They have like just, especially I think in the fourth quarter, their offense can really just disappear at times, even though their defense has been pretty stout all year. So it's just like, who is going to elevate their game, whether it's a Jalen Green, Şengün, or whoever it is. Obviously, Fred VanVleet was out for a while with injuries, and that really like kind of led them to some struggles when VanVleet was out, because he obviously kind of like settles them down and runs the show for them. So having him back, I think, will obviously make a big difference. But like you said, not experienced in the playoffs. It's a different beast, especially when it comes to offense. And then if you have those droughts, they're really going to cost you come the postseason. So I'm interested in that. I do think the Warriors come out of that play-in game, and I think the matchup against the Rockets will be fun. I will say, though, are we going to get playoff Jimmy back? Because
Maybe.
they kind of, though, I think the Warriors are kind of going to need him. Like you said, Cody, they're really going to key in on Steph, especially with the perimeter defense that the Rockets have. And for as good as the Warriors have been, they have been good. Jimmy's been kind of passive at times with the Warriors,
Yes,
especially
exactly.
yeah. He's been kind of like, I guess, trying to fit in, and that's nice and all, and it's good, and it's been working. But when it comes to these playoff games, and if Steph is keyed in on, with all due respect to Draymond and other guys, and hey, and all due respect to Brandon Pajemski, who's been balling actually these last couple games, like Jimmy is probably going to have to be that guy to really step up and kind of fill in those spots. So I'm curious to see if he can kind of get back to that level with the Warriors here.
Yeah, it starts to get a little murky though when you're like, well, if he's gonna be passive, then you got Draymond Green on the floor, who, I mean, he had a corner 3 against the Clippers, but you know what I mean. And then who knows what Pajemski looks like in the playoffs? Yeah, I don't know. It gets murky. I don't know. Do we want to get into like the second round matchups and all this, or is it just speculation? Do we want to move over to the East?
We could go straight to the East, and then if you guys have any,
I don't
other
want to talk
questions-
about your Lakers. I don't like it's
I want
What-
to talk about the Thunder, but I'll do that towards the end.
Okay,
Okay, no
okay.
worries. We'll go to the East. We'll just do the first round, and then if there's any other questions you guys have about my delusions, I will. I'm free. I'm free to answer them, man. I'm free. I'm free
Okay,
to
well, real quick, what's going on the bottom of the bracket here? 'Cause,
answer.
so it's you have Boston winning and going right to the finals. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
with a lot of these logos missing, it's kind of confusing. I don't know
Okay,
who's
so like,
advancing.
I think under the Pacers, that's the Bucks,
Bucks and
and
Pistons. So you
then
have the
that's
Bucks
n-
winning.
so yeah. So the Bucks and Pacers. So I have the Bucks winning that series, and
Okay.
then underneath that is the Knicks and Pistons. I have the Knicks winning that in probably four. Then under that it's Celtics versus the Magic or Hawks, and then obviously I think the Celtics will just steamroll that and go straight to the next round. Honestly, I feel like there's not gonna be too many upsets.
Yeah, I think that's fair on the East side of things because I mean we all know the West has been closer than
Mhm.
the East, and I think there is clear tiers in the East. So yeah, you have what is that? New York and Boston matching up in the second round,
Yeah,
and then Milwaukee taking down Indiana. Honestly, I think I agree with the most part. Like I don't see any of the four perpetual playing teams that are the Orlando Magic, Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, or Miami Heat making any
yeah.
noise. Call me crazy, but I think the Cavs and Celtics have a walk in the park to
Mhm.
the second round. I don't know. I've seen some. I want to ask you guys this. Is Kyle? I'll go to you first.
Yeah.
Is Cade Cunningham the best player in that series
In
against
like
the Knicks?
I th- I would think so. Honestly, I'm a
Mm.
really big Cade guy. Like I've
Oh,
really liked Cade, so I would think so. But I feel like the Knicks just have too much firepower and they're too deep, really, for the Pistons to make any sort of upset. I feel like again, like the Pistons did their job this year. It's kind of like how the Raptors next year, they want to get into the playoffs, they want to develop. So I feel like they did their job by getting to the 6th seed at least. But I would honestly say, yeah, Cade is the best player on that team. I take him over Brunson. I take him over Cat. If that is a hot take. I really
I
like Cade.
don't.
I really
Okay,
like Cade, bro.
you keep talking. You keep talking.
Now go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Jalen Brunson has gotten MVP votes. Like I know he was hurt for a bit and he's just getting back here. They're the third seed for a reason. Jalen Brunson is probably going to be the clutch player of the year or get votes for it. He like if he didn't miss as much time as he did, and he's probably still might get MVP votes. All due respect to Cade Cunningham, he's really good. He is the leader of this team. He's gotten over some of those like inefficiency narratives and what have you.
Yeah, yeah.
Jalen Brunson is still the best player in that series. Like as far as I'm aware, hell, you could
That's
even like
fair.
depending on what kind of cat you get, you can make that argument as well. Like cat might be better. I don't know if I'd go there at that point, but I think it's my turn to be a little delusional here, and I'll stake my claim on it. I am not ready to say that the East is going to be as much of a cakewalk as it looks like, and I say that knowing
Oh.
it's going to be a little delusional. But look, it was funny because with the last game, or I guess the second last game of the season for the Bucks and the Pistons, the Bucks won that game, but basically both teams got a bit of what they wanted. If you look at like who they probably want to match up against, the Bucks got the Pacers, who they went 3-1 against this season. The Pistons got the Knicks, who obviously are the
They
higher
played them
seed.
really well. Yeah, they
Yeah, the
did.
Pistons went 3-1 against the Knicks this year. They
Yeah.
like I'm not saying they're gonna win that series, but if there's a team you're more confident against and you kind of have that a bit of like bravado and swagger being the underdog, I think the Pistons are gonna they're gonna relish that series. They're gonna relish playing at MSG. They have nothing to lose. They're the underdogs in the matchup. It's a old school Knicks Pistons too, like premier franchises to kind of
Yeah.
go back. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun too. So you're gonna kind of get that old school '90s style there. I think that's great. And like, I don't think the Hawks, if they get out of this, are gonna make any noise against the Celtics. But they did win their season series against Boston too. The Hawks actually did pretty well against the top teams in the Eastern
Oh,
Conference. So I say
okay.
all of that to make my
Mhm.
point that they maybe win one game. That's all. That's as far as I'm going with my delusion. The
Yeah,
Hawks might win one game. I'll give the Pistons two. I'll give the Pistons at least 2 games. I'm not going to go on full upset watch, but I think we got to put some respect on the Pistons. They won 14 games last year, and they
Hey,
won an extra 30.
yeah.
That turnaround deserves to be appreciated a bit longer. So I'll give the Pistons a bit more chance.
Hey, this is a pro Pistons. I mean, Kyle thinks Cade. I'm willing to hear that Cade Cunningham's the best player in the series to some degree. I'm willing to hear. I think there's an argument,
Mhm.
100%. They did play the Knicks well this year, and I think there is still concerns with the New York Knicks. I'm always going to be concerned when a defense is built around Cat. You know what I mean? And when the
Yeah.
point of attack is, I get it. You have Bridges and OG to really try and, you know, make up the gap defensively that Brunson and Cat possess. But I don't know. I think Detroit's got a shot, man. I really do. And I mean, I'm taking Milwaukee over Indiana. I agree. I think.
Mm.
Um, I mean, but that's such a fun matchup. Indy and Milwaukee. They've had this like the last couple of years now. They've been matching up quite a bit. I believe they played the playoffs last year, right? I believe.
It
Um,
might have been.
I don't remember actually, but they played in the play-in, right?
I
And
know
then
they did.
that was
Yeah,
when they had the whole beef over the game ball and everything.
it was the play-in, or
Oh,
then it
yeah.
was the in-season.
Oh, yeah.
It was the in-season tournament that.
Sorry, the in-season tournament. That's what I meant.
Yeah, so they've had a little rivalry. I thought maybe they matched up in the playoffs once the past 2 years, maybe not. But anyways, they've had a little rivalry going on, so I like that. But give me the Bucks, I think.
There's one little the only thing I was unsure of in my East predictions was I felt like the Bucks might be able to upset the Cavs. There was something in me saying there could be a potential upset. I don't know how
Yeah.
you guys feel about that, but I was thinking maybe if they were to beat them, it'd be in like 6 games.
Man, I wish, I just wish there, like, if New York was going to be the team to play the Cavs in round 2,
Mhm.
I would be more willing to. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, wait, why did you?
Just-
Nobody can see.
let me-
Nobody can
let me-
see that. We have
All
to
I'm
pop
saying
that
is,
up.
Kyle, how
let me-
long? Yeah,
Pop
Let me
that
post
up.
up, bro. Let
you
me
just
post up,
pulled
bro.
out.
Let me
Was
post
that
up,
just on
bro.
your lap this whole time?
Nobody
That's
was even.
crazy.
We
Let me
had the
post up,
bracket.
bro.
We had the
Let me-
bracket
You had-
pulled up. He couldn't
Yeah,
even
bro,
see it. He was
I was
just
gonna
doing
get
it.
rid
You
of-
had
Oh,
LeBron sitting on your lap. That's crazy, Kyle.
That's my
Uh,
king, bro.
We're starting to go long, but I'll finish with this because I think it's a great question. I think there's a lot of questions with Cleveland. Z,
Yeah.
is Mobley's offensive growth enough to sort through the clinkiness and the clunkiness that we've seen, from Cleveland offensively in the playoffs the past couple of seasons. I worry a little bit if Garland and Mitchell are a little too small in the backcourt in the playoffs. We'll see. But I think there is questions. Uh, it's kind of hard to take anybody but Boston right now,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't know where you stand, Z.
I think I am with you that there is a question when it comes to the Cavaliers. Obviously, they had an all-time great season, but for them, like coming into the year, it was like, yes, the continuity is nice, but like there was concerns over the overlap with Garland and Mitchell, with Allen and Mobley. But then with the way Kenny Atkinson kind of got in there and empowered Mobley to have the ball in his hands more, they kind of figured that stuff out. But obviously, the playoffs are a different beast. How it's going to work, we don't know what kind of version of Donovan Mitchell we're going to get. He's been hurt for a bit. He's expected to be back for the playoffs, but obviously, we don't know to what extent. So that would be interesting. I'll quickly just go back on. I feel like the Pacers have been dismissed here. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna take them over the Bucks. I am not
Fair
believing in the
enough.
Bucks right now. I don't love their depth. Obviously, like we don't know what Damian Lillard's situation is like with the whole deep vein thrombosis thing, the blood clot thing. We don't know if he's gonna be there or to what degree as well. So how much can Giannis lift his team? I do have faith in him. I don't have, with all due respect, faith in other guys on that team right now, whether it's Kyle Kuzma or Gary Trent Jr. to kind of make it happen in the playoffs. And the Pacers, I think, have the depth and the pieces to figure it out. They have tested players. They made an Eastern Conference Finals run last year, which people kind of seem to forget at this point. They're a 50-win team, which shouldn't be taken lightly. So I think the Pacers get out of at least the first round over the Bucks. After that, I'm not so sure. But yeah, question marks abound basically for all these teams in the East, other than the Celtics, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And maybe I dismiss the Pacers a little bit, but I just think Giannis, if they can do a good job containing Giannis, then I think that's it. But I think Giannis can just take over. We've seen him.
Yeah,
do it.
he's an absolute swing factor for sure.
Like, I guess their best matchup is Miles Turner, but then that creates some potential other mismatches with Lopez and Portis and the bigs and whatnot. But we'll see. I think we've gone long enough on.
Kyle, take us home here. What's the last thing you want to talk about with your bracket?
Yeah.
Like y'all saw the delusion coming in, man. Like I got to see the Lakers beating the Celtics in the finals for the chip, man. That's as soon as we get to the conference finals, that's when the delusion starts setting in of them beating OKC. Because
I
if you
think
were
the
to ask me,
delusion set in a long time ago, Kyle. If I'm being honest, I think it's
If
set
you're-
in the second the Lakers got Luka.
if you were to, I didn't even, bro. When I heard they got Luca, I honestly still thought they wouldn't be this good, even when they got Luka. I thought we would be like a lower end playoff team. I didn't think we'd be top 3 seeded at all. I was like, okay, we don't have any defense. We lost our big. We didn't get Mark Williams. But
Yeah.
they exceeded my expectations, and my delusion just ramped up. If you were to ask me to give you unbiased picks, I'd tell you OKC is winning the chip. But like the Lakers, I gotta believe, man. I gotta manifest a fifth.
Hey, even claiming OKC could win is a bit of a hot take. I've seen a lot of OKC pushback as well. So I think it's gonna be fun, man. There's questions for pretty much every team, like really outside of Boston, just in general, like across everybody. There's like you can question things here and there. So I think it's gonna be really fun. No Raptors, unfortunately. This is a Raptors podcast, believe it or not, even though we just rambled on the Lakers for 20 minutes. But yeah, DFS for them has also been huge. But that's where I'll leave it off.
Cody, shoot your shot. Pick a team to win it all. Who do you think's gonna win?
There you go.
Shoot
Just throw one out.
Just throw a dart. The slowest dart ever.
Is it the Celtics?
No, I don't want to say the Celtics. I don't want to say the Celtics, even though I don't know if the odds have come out yet. I would assume they're favorites.
I think they are.
They gotta be like top 3 or something. Yeah,
maybe it's OKC. I don't know. I'd probably have to go OKC just because they have one of the best defenses ever and they have an MVP leading them offensively. I just question whether they have enough secondary creation. Like Jalen Williams last year didn't really step up into that. Can some combination of Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams do that? I don't know, but I think OKC because they can match up in so many different ways.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll go with the same boat. I'm picking OKC to win it all, like you said, for those reasons. The best defense, they had the best scoring differential in a season in NBA history. They just been pumping other teams. And I think the big thing for me with OKC is the hope that it happens this year because now is probably their best shot. Like Kyle had mentioned earlier, the Denver Nuggets are in a bit of disarray after firing Mike Malone. You don't know what version of them you're going to get. The Memphis Grizzlies did the same thing with firing Taylor Jenkins. You don't know how they're going to improve upon. Obviously, the Dallas Mavericks stripped themselves down with the whole Luka trade. This is the first year with Luka and LeBron together. They're only probably going to get better from here, especially if they get a center. So taking advantage of them now when there's still question marks about the Clippers' health, the Rockets' inexperience. Like you said, Cody, there's questions about all these other teams. And to be fair, there is something about OKC as well. But they are just the most built for the now, for the moment. And it's about time, to be quite honest. I think I've mentioned in the past, this SGA Mark Daigneault team hasn't made it out of the second round yet. So now is your time to do it. And I think Western Conference Finals would still probably be a disappointment with how good this team is looking in the regular season. So take advantage of it and go win a championship.
Yeah. Realistically, they should have a Western Conference Final bid in the bag. I think they're going to end up playing the Clippers. I just don't think Denver. I think it's going to be first round exit for Denver, especially because how I like the Clippers, but people have been burnt on the Clippers before and Kawhi before. So
yeah, that's true.
Especially
you never want to bet on them
in a Clippers uniform. But yeah, I think that's enough for me. Yeah.
As long as
Kyle, any final thoughts?
As long as the Celtics don't win the chip, man, I'm happy, bro. As long as I don't see the green holding up that championship trophy, I'm good, man. If the OKC wins it, if literally anybody else in this playoffs wins the chip but the Celtics, I will be happy.
Yeah, any former Raptors like that, I guess like a Norm Powell Clippers would be kind of cool. I'm trying to think of like any other former. I mean, Gary Trent Jr.
to win a championship.
Yeah, like Gary Trent Jr. on the Bucks. I don't know. I'm trying to.
Yeah, Pascal on the Pacers. That's a good one.
Yes, Pascal. I guess OG on the Knicks too.
Yeah,
man, they're all over the place now. I guess so.
Like if anyone else wins a chip, like I always see like the bright side, like the Nuggets win a chip. Westbrook gets a ring. If the Clippers win it, James Harden gets a ring. Bucks win a ring. Lillard gets a ring. Like there's a lot of people that deserve rings, except like the Celtics. But it'd be like that, man.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we might not all agree on our picks or how it gets there, but we'll all agree on the Boston Celtics downfall. I think that's the best place to leave it at here. But look, that does it for us. I know we went a bit long here, but we were just itching to talk about the general NBA with the Raptors not making it to the postseason. Until next season, they will be back. But we appreciate everyone for tuning in to another edition of Run It Back on the Raptors Republic Network. Like always, let us know your thoughts down below. Did you agree with our takes? Are you as disturbed by Kyle having that jersey on his lap for as long as he did as we are? Sound off in the comments and we'll chat about them. But in the meantime, please be sure to subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube channel so you stay in the know. There is going to be more coverage from us and the greater Raptors Republic team, especially leading up to the draft, coming out of it, and obviously throughout the offseason as well. But with that being said, for myself, Kyle, and Cody, we'll be back next time when we run it back. Peace.